Everybody, welcome back to another episode of FSI DFS. I'm your host, Rower 31. I'm on the road here, so I don't have my normal mic camera setup, so hopefully everything good for you. We've got the Truck Series and Cup Series at North Wilkesboro this week. They've redone the stadium part of this track. They haven't raced here since 1996. It was an old dilapidated track. Dale Jr. did a series of lost tracks, and they got together with NASCAR and decided to bring this one back for the All-Star race. So the truck race is just a regular truck race here. And then the Cup race is going to be like the normal All-Star formula. We'll know most of the things tonight, which is Saturday, for the race on Sunday, but there's going to be just like the Clash where they have some heats or like a qualifying race before it for the rest of the drivers to try to win their way in. So I'll probably do a Cup video. It'll probably be short also because we really can't there's not going to be too much time in between the time that the qualifying is done and the first race is done and when the actual race starts. So again, this is a truck video. It's a speculation video. So this is not the starting order by any means. So how do we figure this out? Well, North Wilkesboro, let me tell you a little bit about the track. They didn't repave the track, and they ran I think like a modified race here at midweek to kind of kick things off. And it was kind of like if you watched the Atlanta race, and I believe it was 2020 or 2021 before they repaved it, and there like potholes started to appear, and they had to like stop the race to patch it. So I can't promise you that this race is going to go on, especially with the Cup cars, without them having to do some road work in between or it causing some issues. So that's a little bit concerning. They wanted it to race on the old surface, which is, kind of the purest. My guess is going to cause a lot of tire wear and fall off, as most older surfaces do. So that's one thing that we'll have to keep in consideration. So it's 0.625 miles, so it's a short track, a little bit longer than a half mile. I guess the best track to compare it to is Martinsville, although it's a little bit bigger than Martinsville. But the thing with this track is that makes it unique also is that it's like uphill in the back stretch and downhill in the front stretch. So a friend of the show, Richie Martin, is actually at the track and watched practice yesterday for a Cup and for trucks, and said that looked like some of the trucks lost the front end in turn two. So it's going to take a lot getting used to. Also in this truck race, we've got 5 Cup drivers racing too. So what I'm going to do, like the other speculation videos, is we're just going to talk pricing. I'm using Martinsville as the comparison because we don't have any other data. Also, I'm looking at Richmond recently, which is a shorter track that the trucks raced at also. And then Martinsville over the last couple of years, their practice speed and their just kind of their composite on tire wear tracks and shorter tracks in general over the last couple seasons. So and then their starting position is based on their average starting position for the year. And then if you look at their start and you see like the blue number on them, that means that they were top 10 in a long run speed, which is good because you want them to maintain their speed as their tires fall off and get older. So I think there's actually, 38 trucks will race in this, and there's 40 in the field. Even if it's 36, like I think the ones down towards the bottom, and I think 2 trucks. I know Norm Benning had an incident in practice, and I think he's so slow, I don't think see him qualifying. And then Bottega is one of the Glory to God trucks, is in the 46, and that thing like cut an oil line and the oil shot on the engine. The thing caught on fire. Luckily, he's okay, not a problem. But I don't know if they have the 47 truck there also as a backup because there's nobody driving the 47 truck. So I don't know if he's going to have a ride for the main event to actually do qualifying. So qualifying is going to be on Saturday morning. And then again, there's a small window before the race actually starts. So that's why it's a speculation video and I don't have the starting line. So starting up top, Kyle Larson driving the Spire truck. And this is not your average like Spire truck. There's obviously some backing behind it. It's going to be a decent truck. I think Corey LaJoy drove it last week and it was pretty sound. So I'm not worried about tech or anything on this. I believe it's kind of a partnership with GMS also, because I think Ed Finger and him switch spotters. So just to try to make this successful. Look, Kyle Larson's really good at this type of track. I only pulled up his like cup things, but like Martinsville ran well, 6th in practice. So it's a most expensive guy. At least it's not 14,000. But again, I'm not going to make him a prime play because you're just going to have to see. You know, he did enough in practice to make, you know, if he gets the pole, to consider him in cash as your dominator. But again, I'm not going to put any of the cup guys as prime plays because I'm looking to try to give you people that I think could fill in the rest of your lineup. So then you can pick who you want from the cup guys because there's probably going to be lots of really good options. And that's going to be the key, is trying to nail them down. Majeski didn't do good at Richmond, but if I take that off, 2nd in practice, 6.5 average running position in Martinsville. I think you can play him in cash, although he didn't have as good long run speed. So I might, for that, knock him down in GPP, but I think he'll be fine. So he's borderline cash on GPP play. Christopher Bell, GPP. Hattori trucks are good. This is a 2nd Hattori truck, which I haven't run that much this year. So sometimes these teams put more than one out there, they spread themselves too thin. I think they'll be okay here. Bell's a decent driver, but Martinsville's 16th, 20th in practice really didn't blow me away from what I've seen. So, and I think again, this is just to maybe get some more practice here before a cup. Not that he like really needs it, but I think it's more so just to get a feel of the truck or the track and a chance to come and race for Toyota and the Truck Series as a cup driver. So GPP for me, unless he like gets the pole or something. And it looks like, you know, he could be an early dominator. Christian Eckes did really good. It struggled. We were on him for Martinsville, but it was a week too early because he didn't look as good. And then he goes out there and has a dominant run at Richmond. 15th in practice, which isn't super great, but and didn't have like the long run speed I was looking for. But I think, you know, still if he stays in this current form, that he could be a cash play depending on where he qualifies. Nicholas Sanchez, then goes to GPP. I like the price point, but 30th in practice looked like he's kind of struggling on this track. It looked decent at Martinsville and Richmond recently. And 7,900 is not a bad price tag, but you know, it all depends on. I think there's so many big boys in here. If it was just the regular Truck Series, I consider him as someone that could get up there and potentially dominate because we've seen that this season. But I think unless he's a place differential play, I'm not too excited about him. Corey Heim in a Tricon Garage truck looked really good at Martinsville. Probably should have won that one. And then Richmond looked solid also. 12th here in practice, had some good long run speed, so I think he's a cash play, again, depending on qualification. Zane Smith, it's projecting him to finish first just based on how well he ran at Martinsville. Had some trouble at Richmond, but overall 4th in practice, and the other Martinsville and composite races were really good for him. You have a 2nd overall average. I have him as a cash play, but he could probably be like a GPP because if everybody's gravitating towards these cup plays, then he's probably going to be priced in no man's land at 10-3 here. Have a little bit lower ownership and be someone that you can consider. Ben Rhodes, 85, good price, GPP. Looked good at Martinsville, did not look good at Richmond. 8th in practice, did not have the long run speed. Price tag is appealing, depends on where he starts, probably a GPP. Chase Purdy in this Kyle Motorsports truck cash play here. 6,900 is a good price, even though he had a 21st overall running position at Martinsville and Richmond. Practice, he looked good, had some good long run speed, so I think he understands this track. So at 6,900, depending on where he starts, if he starts 9th, I think this might be borderline. I hope he starts like 10th or worse, so it'd be a little bit of place differential there, but I think he's definitely in play. Grant Empfinger, I have him as a GPP, even though he ended up doing really well at 2 weeks ago in that race, and then Richmond, I thought he'd do it again, but he was good. He was up there. 10th in practice, didn't have the long run speed, so you have GPP for me. William Byron coming from the Cup Series, having an absolute amazing run there. Looked good at Martinsville, looked really good last week at Darlington they were at, and looked decent at Richmond too. 9th in practice, didn't have the long run speed I was looking for, but in this Kyle Busch, like probably the best Kyle Busch truck. And if Kyle had more races to run in the truck series, I think he'd definitely be here. But Byron's definitely a suitable fill in here, and I think he'll do really well. And all depends on his starting position, whether he's the dominator, whether he's some for place differential. I hesitate to play he and Larson in the same lineup unless you can find some really good value to make it work in cash. I think you're going to pick one or the other, but definitely in play. Hocevar is going to be my first prime play if you can get him in at 88 here. I looked really good at practice, had the fastest, had one of the best long run speeds here. 10th overall in tracks that compared, comes first in composite rating. So again, it all depends on where he starts, but I think he could be a very good play here. Friesen's been GPP for me all season. Looked probably his best in like the Richmond race last week, but 23rd in practice here. I don't know if his dirt racing principles are going to translate in this type of track here with like the surface, the tire wear, and being a short track. So I think he's a consideration, but probably GPP for me. Tanner Gray is an intriguing one here. Looked really good at Martinsville. Did not look good in Richmond. 38th in practice. Had some issues here. So if he can bounce back from that and probably doesn't start in the top 10, I'm going to give him the purple like we've been doing with some of the people I just want you to call out and kind of remember. I think that he could be decent. Bubba Wallace coming over. This Tricon Garage #1, kind of like an all-star truck for them. It's been good this season. Martinsville, it's not been his like best track. 24th in practice, didn't have the long run speed. He's a good driver. He's a cup driver. Can you figure it out? Yeah, but I think he's gonna be a GPP depending on if he like completely botches qualifying, starts way down the field, and it's a great place differential playoff plan. But I think at 9,200, he's definitely going to be hard to fit in no man's land. But if you're looking at just playing 2 cup guys, he does give you a nice price point as the cheapest of the 5 cup guys in the field. Connor Jones is someone to watch here. The 66 Thor Sports Racing truck. Everything points to him being around 16th, starting 16th, running around 16th, finishing around 16th, practicing around 17th. So at 5,900, if he can hold his own here, if he starts below the top 20, I think he's definitely somebody that you really, really want. Talented young driver here that I don't think many people are going to know about. So someone to definitely keep your eye on also. Jake Garcia, we've seen him up and leading and stuff. 7K is not a bad price for him. He and Nicolas Sanchez are very similar. I think it all depends on like where they start. If he starts up in the top 10, if it was a regular truck race, I think maybe he could hang up there and get up there and maybe lead. But it's hard to say that he's going to be able to do that with all these cup guys and all the other talent here. Matt Crafton, he's been in the series so long, I would be surprised if he actually raced here previously, but I don't think he's been around that long. 8,100 veteran. Again, if he finishes starts 15th or below, looks like he'd be a good play. Nothing really popped in practice or long run speed. So again, you just have to see where he's a vanilla guy that you can just fill in. He's like almost becoming like when we used to play Ryan Newman a couple of years ago, where you knew that what you're getting, you'd go out there, you'd have solid performance, you're the veteran, you take care of the vehicle, and be able to get a good finish, probably progress a little bit, but not be up there like dominating, but the price point usually paid himself off. So Ross Justine, he's raced many truck races this year and just really hasn't had the equipment in this nice truck. And plus, it'd be interesting with Kyle Larson in the field if he doesn't get run into the wall at some point by him, because this isn't a point race for either of them. But his aggressiveness here, but again, he just really hasn't popped. He had good long run speed, but overall in practice didn't look great. I think you have to keep him in consideration. I think he's probably one of the first guys in your GPP lineup, as he should be most weeks in anything he races, because he has the potential and the talent behind the antics. But at 9,800, I think I'd rather play like Larson or Byron. I think they have better equipment and are a better opportunity here. But Chastain is definitely in play in cash, but probably GPP for me. Taylor Gray looked good at Richmond, looked okay. I think both grades are usually pretty solid here, but practice 28th, but he did have like long run speed. So I think maybe they're working on some things. So we maybe not look at the practice number as much, and maybe the couple cautions there for the 2 wrecks or incidents caused issue with his time. So, but somebody else to keep an eye on. Matt Benedetto also like 13th here. If he starts 15th on back, I think he's somebody that I really like at his price point. Just somebody with like a lot of experience, former Cup driver. I'm gonna give him a purple also, just as somebody to potentially watch. Caruth, we've seen him do well. We've seen him wreck. Martinsville, he was doing really well, and then wrecked towards the end. Richmond was okay, but again, practice wasn't great, but he did have some long run speed, so he's definitely somebody to keep your eye on, potentially also. Ankrum and another Hattori truck here. Not great at Martinsville, okay at Richmond. I think he's just got an average here. Deegan, I think you can play in cash, 18th in practice, so it all depends. If I think 15th on back, if she starts, would be perfect for her. She has made a lot of progress, I've seen this year against the new track, but I think that she'll be able to be fine. Really like Josh Williams here, 14th in practice. He basically runs Xfinity, doesn't run truck too much, but his AM Racing's the old Tommy Joe Martin one. It's a solid team. They don't get to race that often, but I think Josh Williams is I know if you watch this video for years, TK and I were on him and then off and then on him, but we have seen some talent there. He really is kind of underrated, and yes, he's the guy, if you recall, in the Xfinity series that got in a wreck and piece fell off his car and he got black flagged by NASCAR, and so he just was told to park the car, so he just parked on the start finish line, got suspended for a race, but he's come back and not been bad since then, so keep your eye on him. Also in Parker Klingerman, this truck is solid. He always runs really well. 7th practice, had great long run speed, and 7,700. I think no matter where Parker Klingerman starts, that he's definitely going to be in consideration. Hope that he starts outside the top 10, but if he starts within the top 10 too, I think that he's somebody you can consider. Honeycutt looked really good in practice too, 5th overall. He hasn't looked good, but he was usually in the 04 truck, which is Roper Racing, but this should be an upgrade for him equipment-wise, being in a young truck. So he's priced for when he was in the Roper truck, I think number 5 in practice here. Didn't have great long run speed, but that's fine as long as he doesn't qualify like super high. I think if he's 20th on back, I think he's a really, really good value play for you. Daniel Dye, not super great here, GPP. Holmes, Thompson, Lawless, Allen seems to find a lot of trouble. I think they're all the same driver. I think the best one out of the bunch here is probably Holmes, with the 21st in practice and the 24th overall composite. So you just have to see like where they start. And, the closer to the back, there'd be place differential plays. Colby Howard, I think, could be decent here. He's 13th in practice, 14th overall running position at Martinsville, and his composite on these looks great. So he's one to watch as a potential value play, just with all the things I've seen on him. So I'll give him a purple. Timmy Hill, Hill's been solid, but 29th here. Sauter in this Roper Racing truck, he hasn't been like super great since he's returned to the series. He's raced a couple of them. Let's see if he was in. Can't remember if he raced the last two in Richmond. Yeah, so a 29th average running position at Richmond, and he came back, and I thought that he'd be a good one with his experience, but just really didn't show up. So yeah, I have a number here. It should, well, that makes him pop a little bit better. Here it actually brings up to 17th, makes him a really bad play. So again, I think if he starts in the 30s, his price point has come down since the last couple of weeks when he came back. I think he was like 7,300. No, if he's not that Spencer Boyd, Spencer. Johnny Sauter. There we go. Oh, Chris Wright and Boyd. Again, if they start dead last, they might be in play here. Nothing special pops out with them. Josh Room, if they take 36, I don't know if he'll make it. Chris Hacker, the Sound Point truck is decent, but he really hasn't shown a ton, but it's a better truck than some of the other ones back here. And again, I don't know if Ogata or Benning, with the damage that they had during practice or their speed, are going to be able to make it in if they take 36 trucks. If they take 38 trucks, then again, it depends on if they can even qualify for this. So that's what I got for you. Like I said, I really like Hocevar from what I saw in practice. Really like Josh Williams and Clearwind, just as like their price point and practice and just overall composite on this type of track and stuff. And then I'll probably mix in the studs, probably Zane Smith and Heim and Akis would be the Truck Series regulars I would consider. And then Larson and Byron, potentially Bell, would be the other ones to consider from the Cup Series, and then in GPP, Bubba Wallace and Ross Chastain. So I got for you. If you have any questions, leave them in the chat below. I will be traveling today and at a conference, so I don't know if I'll be able to answer every single question. I'll try my best to check on breaks and periodically when I can, try to get answers for you. And again, remember, it's a speculation video. We don't have all the answers. You can also hit me up at Twitter at MegaRoad31. But if you do want the actual chart and everything, if you go to the description of the video, you can sign up for our NASCAR package on FSI DFS. It's only $5 a week. I think it's only like $10 or $15 for the whole month. Very, very cheap, very, very reasonable, but you'll have all the accurate information and cores for you once we see what comes about from qualifying, and have the actual starting lineup. We'll make some decisions on what the real plays are going to be. And if these videos help you, even though they've been speculation videos, we've hit some really good plays in them, and they've actually been, when reality hits, sound ones. So appreciate you watching. So if again, if these videos help, please like, subscribe to our channel, and share with your friends. Good luck in your contest. Hope to get a cup video out. Give me another speculation one, but we'll talk the same way through the slate and pricing and who potentially could do well. And next week we should be back to a normal format. So thanks again for watching. Good luck in your contest. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next time.